my brow and I sweat my rust.
Hello everyone, today I'm going to be giving you kind of a first step, kind of a prologue to my customizing series that I'm going to be doing for you guys. This is kind of the materials you are going to need. So the first thing you're going to need, obviously, you're going to need a horse. You're going to want the horse you want to customize. Figure out what one you want. I have a whole body box just full of these guys, but... And then next, you're going to want sandpaper. This is for sanding off logos and seams on your horses because you want customized horses to be as smooth as possible. And I usually go from like about 120 grit, 100 grit, 120, stuff like that, all the way up to this 800 grit. This is for the final sanding over, just to make them nice and smooth so you can't see the scratches from the sandpaper. And then once you're done with all of that, you're going to want a primer. Now, primer can vary from anything from this spray primer. This is indoor outdoor Krylon primer. It actually works really, really well. It doesn't get sticky on horses like I used it on this little guy right here. Normally mini winnies tend to get kind of sticky with spray primer, but this indoor outdoor primer actually works really well on these little guys. But the spray primer does tend to get a little bit expensive after a while because you have to buy so many cans of these, and they're like $6 a can, and you have to do 1,000,002 layers. So if you have a smaller budget, there's also gesso. That's that big bucket right there. It's like half a gallon, I think. I got it for like 20 bucks, so it's not bad at all. A little bit of that stuff goes a long way. And this guy was primed with gesso. It looks really nice. Or if you have a super small budget, you can just use white paint. White paint, that's what I used for this guy right here. I primed him with just straight acrylic paint. So that's for prepping and priming. And now on to the painting itself. Now, first thing you're going to need is acrylic paint. Get lots of acrylic paint. You can get these at Michael's, like this Craft Smart brand. You can get it at Michael's for like 30-40 cents a bottle. But just get lots of Horsey colors, like, oh no, like browns, black, white, kind of those colors. But also get some bright colors like red and orange and yellow, because a lot of base coats, you want to start with a super bright color. It makes the color really pop on the horse instead of just looking flat and boring. So there's those for you. This is for your base layer, and the white is for your final detailing. And then for shading on your horse, you want to get some pastels. Now you just want to get the soft pastels. They're the ones that come in these sticks. They're kind of the dusty ones. Don't get oil pastels. They don't work very well. You can just use any brand. It doesn't have to be this Alpha Color brand, but you do want some earth tones because those are kind of the more horsey colors. You definitely at least want a black, some browns, maybe a couple yellows and oranges. Those are the main colors you need. And then, let's see. And then you also want this Liquitex stuff. Any kind of glazing medium. It is so fabulous. When you mix it with your acrylic paint, it helps so you don't get brush strokes in your paint job. It's extremely helpful, and it helps the paint dry just a little bit faster than it would normally. So it's pretty wonderful, and then you can use it at the end to gloss your horse's hooves, eyes, anything like that. Let's see. Next. Get some kind of palette knife. Doesn't have to be a special palette knife. You can always just use an old silverware for it. But I just use these. It helps to mix the paint so you don't turn your brush into a big paint mess. And speaking of brushes, get a whole bunch of sizes varying from nice big ones to these little ones for tiny little horse details, like on this little guy right here. when you customize little horses like this, you definitely want very small brushes. Really, you don't want brushes too big. It's best to go with the little guys. And then you also want brushes for your pastels. Keep your pastel brushes and your acrylic brushes separate, because otherwise it's just ugh, it turns into a mess, and pastels kind of ruin your brushes. So just keep that in mind. And all right, now we have the painting materials out of the way. Next, you want reference material of some sort. Definitely have reference material so that you can look at the horse that you're painting and say, okay, these are the colors I need. Like this Frisian right here. Normally, if you're painting a black horse, if you don't have a reference, you just think, okay, I can just paint a bunch of layers of black on and it'll look fine. But if you look at this horse, you can see he's got lots of brown. There's a lot of brown highlights and shading in this horse. Black horses are not just black. If you just paint them black, they will look very flat. So there is a big benefit to having references with you, because judges can tell if you're planning on showing your horses. Judges can tell if you don't use a reference at all, because sometimes the shading will look out of place. So just have some sort of reference material. And last but not least, you are going to want a finish for your horse. Now, it just depends on if you want your horse to be glossy or matte. If you're looking for a realistic looking horse, I would go with this Krylon matte finish. It works really, really well. It doesn't get the horses sticky, which is nice. It dries super fast. It's fairly cheap for a whole lot of it. Ew, bug. Ugh. But yeah, it's fairly cheap. Or if you want a glossy finish, there's also Krylon Crystal Clear. Although be super careful, because Crystal Clear, it can make certain horses kind of sticky. It's fine with stablemates and stuff, but if you're planning on using it with a mini Winnie, they tend to get really sticky because of the material used. So just keep that in mind if you plan to gloss anything. And oh, I think that is it for your materials you are going to need. So yeah, there's that for you. I am going to be starting a customizing series for you guys. So thank you so much for watching.